The facts that I care about are the facts that are true and have evidence. Dr. Peterson, you're drunk on symbols.
The biblical accounts also speak poetically and metaphorically and allegorically, and people who are sophisticated in biblical analysis have known this for centuries. The biblical literalists generally suffer from the problem that they don't even know what it means to be literalist.
Hey guys, sorry it's been a while since my last video. Life's been crazy. I recently got hired and it's such a wild testimony that I could make a whole video about. So let me know in the comments if you'd like to hear about that story. But for now, let's dive into this one, shall we?
You're obsessed with Cain because Cain is symbolic of evil. All the evil in the world you more or less blame Cain for. And this is Cain. I mean, you don't believe Cain actually existed, I presume.
Well, I think of Cain as, well,
do you believe Cain existed?
I think the pattern that Cain represents is an eternal pattern. And so
yes,
it's a higher
different.
Level of existence.
That's different.
So this is Dawkins' first attempt to get Peterson to state whether he factually believes a biblical figure, Cain, actually existed. To save you some headache, here's the gist of what happened. Peterson doesn't answer Dawkins' question directly. Instead, he goes on about how the story of Cain and Abel evolves over time and how Cain's archetype is in everyone. It's not really a great look for Peterson, but I don't think he's intentionally dodging the question. As you'll see throughout the video, it's almost like these two are having a dialogue from two different planets. Dawkins focuses entirely on factual truth, while Peterson emphasizes metaphorical truth. Now here's the difference. Dawkins sees no value in metaphorical truth, but Peterson understands that both factual and metaphorical truths are essential.
You must know, I know this comes up all of the time when somebody says, but did Cain and Abel really exist? And I know that you want to say that the story which
I think it's a silly question. I think it's like asking whether Raskolnikov existed in Crime and Punishment. Like it's not a trivial question, because you can answer yes and you can answer no. You can say, well, there was no such specific person as Raskolnikov. But it's not a helpful question, because the reason that Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment is a masterpiece is because Raskolnikov was everywhere in Russia when Dostoevsky wrote Crime and Punishment. And so Raskolnikov is hyperreal, not real.
But to be clear, is that how you feel about Cain and Abel? That is to say, an identifiable
I think they're hyperreal.
Homo sapiens called Cain,
it's irrelevant.
who murders his brother.
In a sense, it's irrelevant to me, because even if they were real, like, we don't know anything about them as historical figures.
Of course, even if they weren't real, of course they weren't.
Does Dr. Dawkins know for a fact that Cain and Abel weren't real? How can he be so sure? This highlights a major flaw in Dawkins' belief system, a purely literalist or fact-based approach. Peterson made a great point earlier when he said that literalists often don't fully understand what it means to be a literalist.
Suppose we were asking out of interest. Suppose that we were all here devout Christians, maybe even Jungian Christians, and we thought, this is interesting, over dinner. Do you think it really happened, like scientifically? Would your answer just be, I don't know?
Yes.
I must say I admire Peterson's honesty when he admits he doesn't know, which we ought to do often, as things can lead to absurdity when we don't. That kind of humility is rare in debates like this. By the way, Peterson already gave them an answer.
Is an answer to that question, but is that your answer, that you don't know?
I said earlier, and I would hold to this, is that there are elements of the text that I don't know how to, that I'm incapable of fully accounting for. I can't account for what the fundamental reality and significance of the notion of the resurrection is. My knowledge just ends.
It's not just a simple yes or no or I don't know, but a detailed one, though he could have saved them some time by saying he doesn't know. But it seems though that Dawkins is fixated on a binary response when Peterson's approach is much broader. I guess that's part of being a literalist.
And you wouldn't consider it, I mean, it's not an inappropriate question to ask, just on a point of interest.
Right.
Did this really occur? And I think so often people are asking you that, and especially given the context of this conversation, we've heard everything that you're saying about metaphor and myth, but because the question is still then being asked, did it really happen? You know that that's what you're being asked. And the way you just so easily said yes, I wonder why you struggle to do that in so many other circumstances.
I think because I don't look at the situation the same. the way that Dr. Dawkins and I look at the situation are really quite different, and at many, many, many levels. So even on the meme question, for example, like I know the literature on the history of religious ideas. I see how these ideas have battled across millennia in a manner that is very reminiscent to me of the same sort of claim that Dr. Dawkins is putting forward with regards to meme. I know that literature. Dr. Dawkins doesn't know that literature. And it's very difficult for me to communicate from within the confines of that literature because it's extensive and deep.
I think it's reasonable to ask, did they exist? But we can only investigate as far as the archetype of the characters mentioned in the text. Proving someone's existence purely through ancient writings is impossible. For example, can you factually prove Julius Caesar existed based solely on texts? You can't. This is the problem with Dawkins' worldview. It limits you to the point of absurdity. That's why I'm on Peterson's side. When he says he can't commit to Cain being factually real, there's no way to prove it. This is where metaphorical truth comes in. How can we know if Caesar, Jesus, or Cain are true? Let's hear what Peterson has to say about this.
And we're dealing with things that we don't understand the relationship between metaphoric truth and value-predicated truth and factual truth. We don't understand that. It's a big problem. There's no evidence whatsoever from the scientific perspective that we can orient ourselves in the world merely in consequence of the facts.
Sure.
And that's a fact. And it's a fact that's been detailed out in great detail in the last 60 years by people from a variety of different disciplines. We have to prioritize the facts. That's a value hierarchy. There may be true and false ways of prioritizing facts, but you can't determine the truth or falsehood of the way that you prioritize facts by making reference to the facts. That's a big problem.
Peterson makes an excellent point here. We don't fully understand the relationship between metaphoric truth, value-based truth, and factual truth. He's right. Facts alone don't orient us in the world. They're essential, but they're not enough. We live by trust, not just facts. More so by trust than facts. I've talked about this before, and I'll link that video in the description. Okay, so here's one example. To keep it brief, how do you know your wife loves you? Did you marry her based purely on facts? That doesn't sound right, does it? At some point, you had to trust her love. Otherwise, the marriage wouldn't make sense. It'd be foolish if you only believed in facts. Facts alone don't inspire you to go to the moon. It's the why behind the facts that drives you there. Facts don't give you a reason to live. Trust and purpose do. They are what gets you out of the bed in the morning. There's so much in this discussion we could unpack, but I'll save it for another time. I have to say though, Alex O'Connor did a phenomenal job as a mediator in this debate. I don't think it would turn out so good if O'Connor wasn't there. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.